meeting for 2022. Can everyone hear me okay? I know it's the masks are a bit of a challenge, but thank you. It is Monday the 24th of January and it's 5:30, so get underway. Council acknowledge and pays respects to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community as the traditional and original owners and continuing custodians of this land. All persons in attendance are advised that it's Council policy to record Council meetings in accordance with Council's digital recording policy. The digital recording of this meeting will be made available to the public on Council's website for a minimum period of 6 months. This meeting is also being live streamed on Council's YouTube channel. Item 1 is apologies. The following apologies have been received for the meeting. Councillor Ennis is currently on leave and Councillor Jarman is an apology for this meeting. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest in any item on this agenda? Councillor Murphy?
Yes, Mayor, in item 4.1 and 4.2, sorry, not 4.2, item 4.1, I am engaged in the real estate industry and I am not known to the proponent as proposed and will not be leaving the room.
Thank you. Are there any others? I will declare interest in item 5.1. I am a member of Optimus. I don't hold any executive positions, so I won't be leaving the room for that discussion as well. Item 3.1 is confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Can I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Laycock, a second, please. Sorry, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Laycock, any comments?
Nothing to add, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy.
Merely received.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Laycock to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Item 3.2 is public question time, and item 3.2.1 are responses to questions raised at prior meetings, of which we didn't have any to attend to after that meeting. Item 3.2.2 is questions on notice from the public, and there is a recommendation there or responses to those questions.
So moved.
Councillor Perry.
Second.
And Councillor Murphy. Councillor Perry.
It's all in the report, Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Murphy.
Nothing further.
Any comments, questions? Councillor Perry, close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Item 3.2.3 is questions without notice from the public, which is the opportunity for anyone in the gallery to ask a question of council, with a reminder that ask for your name and address at the beginning and ask your question. Thank you. Mr. Smith.
All right, Trevor Smith, 7 Glen Court, Devonport. Before submitting my questions, could I have written replies to my questions rather than verbal answers, please? I wish to submit these 3 questions. Mayor, will you please give an update in regards to the motion that was passed at the November 2021 annual general meeting, with Council allocating some, if not all, of the surplus money received for the 2020-21 financial year? These monies to go to the construction of footpaths where there are none at all in the street and have been waiting between 8 and 46 years. Gaps between footpaths where there is no footpath at all is not of the best when you're trying to push someone in a wheelchair. An indication of the amount to be allocated, where the footpaths are to be provided and the approximate year they will be constructed, with the footpath that had been waiting for over 46 years to be commenced first at Surrey Street, Devonport. Next one. At the front of the taxi combined at 123 Don Road, Devonport, and also at the front of Energy Point at 142 Don Road, you have made a start on improving pedestrian safety by upgrading the footpaths on both sides of Don Road. You have installed the usual footpath crossover infrastructure as you have done elsewhere in the city, for having a pedestrian safe refuge in the middle of a busy road. Why hasn't the pedestrian island been built like near the bottom of the Gateway Church Don Road? Right, there we go. Where is it? Right, at the council agenda meeting on the 21/11/2021, I asked a question about the faded zebra line markings, as well as the line markings for the car spaces to be done at the four-ways car park. It was now the 24/1/2022 and they still have not been done. The zebra markings are a safety issue for the ratepayers of Devonport. Cost should not be an issue at all. 2 months to wait is far too long. Why do as a ratepayer have to keep on bringing up the safety issue with the council? Thank you.
As you have asked Mr. Smith, those are numbers. Thank you.
Right.
Mr. Janney.
My name's Douglas Janney, 23 Watkinson Street, Devonport. Subject, Don Road resurface in late November 21. Don Road rework was done on the weekend before the 22nd of the 11th, 21. And this was the date that I asked when the depressions would be done. Council's response by M. Atkins on the 1st of December 21 states work on the two depressions would be done in the coming weeks. 2 months have gone by since the road resurfaced and the job's not completed. This is an appalling performance by the council. As stated in the preamble to my question on the 22nd of the 11th, the work was not done to comply with state growth specification in terms of sequencing. Do the manhole depressions first and then do the road. So the question is, what is the precise date that this work will start?
I'll take on notice, Mr. Janney. Thank you.
Well, I hope it's within the next 3 days. Thank you.
Any other questions? We'll move on. Thank you. Item 3.2.3 is questions about, oh no, we've done that. Next one, 3.3 is questions on notice from council, from councillors, of which there were none at the compilation of the agenda. Item 3.4 are notices of motion, and item 3.4.1 is the garden reflection at Pioneer Park. The motion, Councillor move the motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I move as written.
Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Thank you. Councillor Laycock. Councillor Hollister is the seconder. Thank you. Councillor Laycock.
Thank you, Mayor. The concept plans for Remembrance Garden at Pioneer Park is the brainchild of the East Side Village people, a group of very passionate ladies in East Devonport who've worked to improve their area for many years. Their idea was to create a completely new garden within the park, which highlights the heritage of the early settlers and acknowledges the first people. Some features of the garden will be low-maintenance native plantings to attract birds and provide colour with some European influence to reflect the pioneers' heritage. Provide space for interpretive signage, memorials and seatings. The area set aside for the garden is located on the southeastern side of Pioneer Park. I know that you've all read agenda item 6.5, that's the Pioneer Park Master Plan that stretches between 2018 and 2028, and use the Garden of Reflection is part of that bigger picture. But I must point out that the graphics on page 59 are nothing like what the group's been working on for the last few years. The group have always been mindful of the maintenance costs as well, because that's noted in the officer's comments to council once the garden is completed. So they've worked on this with council staff on numerous occasions. Council has been very supportive of this East Side Village group with the conceptual plans that fit beautifully into Pioneer Park. This garden will be connected to the historic Wright Street walkway that Tassports are talking about, as well as the soon-to-be newly refurbished historic walk along Wheeler Street. As the group said, it's a bit of a shame that the Garden of Reflection now seems a long way off if it's going to stay in the master plan and not be, or they won't know when it's going to come, whether it'll be the first thing in the garden, in the Pioneer Park to be started on. So it seems that a project like this that they've been working on for a lot of years and has been on the drawing board could be there for quite a few more years. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Laycock. Councillor Halster.
Yes, Pioneer Park's a very good park. It's had a lot of redevelopment recently over the last few years, and I think this will only benefit to the community as well. So I fully support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments? Any other comments, questions? Councillor Alexander.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The village people, the group, are working quite tirelessly on certain projects. East Devonport do a great job. I won't be supporting this motion as the comments reflect the officers he's put in there is that the council's already delivering the action and supporting the Eastside village people. I do understand that it might take a little bit longer than what is anticipated, but at least everything's in place as far as council are concerned and they're well aware of what's happening. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Councillor Perry.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I can see where Councillor Laycock's going with this, but I can't get away from the last sentence in the officer's comments, and that is it may be prudent to defer a decision on funding this project until its priorities understood in a strategic context. So that doesn't mean we should not do it or it's not a priority, but I think it's probably something we should look at further in budget deliberations, and if not budget deliberations, perhaps even a workshop before then, just so we get an understanding on its priority and the context, or the strategic context that we should view it in. Because it could potentially be $170,000, which is not an insignificant amount. So I think we just need to view it through that prism and be a little bit more strategic about it. And it may well be after discussions at a workshop or budget deliberations that we decide to do it. And that being the case, it would appear in the 22-23 budget. So on that basis, I won't be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Are there any other comments? Councillor Milwong.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's a nice idea, but again, I do agree with Councillor Perry and Councillor Alexu that it is outside the scope of the council at this point in time. It would be good to work with the group to see if we can secure some funding in another way, and maybe the council can contribute later down the track. But perhaps if we work together, we can come to a more positive outcome in the future.
Thank you. Councillor
Thank you, Mayor. I'll agree with the previous two speakers. I suppose it's a bit like building a house. I think we're going to see some significant change in the East Devonport area, and I don't necessarily think with the amount of work that will be done over in that particular area, whether we do the garden first and then have sort of it being trampled on. I'm building a house and don't do the garden first, I'll do the garden last. But I think the amount of work that the Eastside village people have done is significant, there's no doubt about that. And maybe a potential suggestion is whether there are some of the service clubs that may want to partner in relation to the significance of what Councillor Laycock is proposing, that there may be some service clubs within the community who would be prepared to get behind this particular project financially. So it could be an option. So I won't be supporting the motion there.
Thank you. Everyone's had comments? I'll ask Councillor Laycock to close.
Thank you. Looks like I've got an uphill battle here, doesn't it, ladies and gentlemen? But just a couple of things. The comments, and no disrespect, of course, to our staff, that we look at this in a strategic context. This plan has been worked up for over 3 years with council staff. Mike Williams and Randall Stott have been exceptionally good meeting on site and organising meetings within council. So as far as I'm concerned, they're looking at it in the correct way. If it's just left to the master plan, it could be the last part of the master plan to be completed. And as I'm going on to say in a couple of seconds, that we haven't done the history in our city very well, and this is the opportunity to do it. It's not a willy-nilly, we'll plant a few pansies and see if the kids can pull them out. This has had a lot of thought into it. To come that the garden needs to be seriously a garden of reflection so people can come and sit and reflect on what it's all about. Even the plantings, the ladies have spent hours and hours on this, working out the native plants, and as I once again said earlier, they've worked with council staff to make sure that what's going to be put into there, even whether it's going to be a curve or a straight line, that it can be, the maintenance can be fairly straightforward. They're still going to mow the rest of the park, and it's going to enhance that particular corner. As I said, it has been a good effort with Mike and Randall, and I do thank the staff for being available to progress this project. Let me just pick a couple of other things out. They were told that the garden would be done in 2 stages, be completed. Firstly, the plantings, and there has been some trees planted, but guess what? That doesn't take much to do, does it, to plant a few trees? The hard structure will be part 2. And it certainly was a suggestion by staff, I think it was by Mike, to incorporate that wellbeing part into this garden of reflection for meditation and reflection. Sorry, this mask is very hot when you're speaking. Devonport's a beautiful city. We've moved forward. We're very proud of where we are. But one thing that does sadden me is that we've never really looked after our heritage. We're talking about doing things with Tasports now for the beautification of East Devonport, and with the Rotary Club, they're doing their part for East Devonport. We can't partner with a service club to do this. These ladies have gone out to public consultation and they've come up with what people of East Devonport certainly want. So we need to make the most of it. There's thousands, not thousands, but numerous hours have gone into this. And this, I don't feel this is the time to defer this motion to just, okay, we'll just park it in the master plan. And guess what? It'll probably be the last thing to be done in the master plan. And when's the end of this? 2028, so we're still 6 years off. So these ladies will have been working on it for about 9 or 10 years at that stage, and we'll see nothing. So I'm saying, as elected members, that it's time for us to support the Garden of Reflection. It needs to be identified as a priority in the 2022-23 budget so that work can progress, or continue, I should say, as quickly as possible. And I do look forward to your support. Thank you.
Thank you. I will close the debate and put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against? Nay. I will ask for a show of hands. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Laycock and Councillor Hollister. Those against the motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Milborn, Councillor Murphy, Councillor Perry, Councillor Alexio and Councillor Rockcliffe. The motion is lost. Thank you. Item 4 is planning authority matters, and I announce that Council intends to act as a planning authority under the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act of 1993 for the consideration of agenda items 4.1 and 4.2. Council is required by Regulation 8.3 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations to deal with items as a planning authority under the LUPA 1993 in a sequential manner, and the following items are being dealt with at this meeting in Council's capacity as a planning authority. Item 4.1 is PA 2021.0164 10 Valkyrie Close. There is a recommendation here. Do I have a mover of that recommendation?
So moved.
Councillor Milborn, do I have a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Milborn.
Thank you. It's a very thorough report, and unfortunately it didn't meet many of the planning matters that needed to be met. So I don't see how we can go against the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister.
Yes, I had a look at this mock this afternoon. I believe it's trying to get too much into the size of the block. The distance around the boundaries is very, very small. So I think the recommendation should be followed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor Murphy?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councillor Milburn and Councillor Hollister. It is unfortunate in the required need for this type of development in our city, but unfortunately, as I'm aware and asked quite a few questions around this, that our council has been very proactive in trying to work with the proponent in finding an acceptable solution to the issues in relation to that, but they have not been obviously willing to sort of work with us in addressing those criteria. So therefore, I will be supporting the recommendation as it stands.
Thank you. Councillor Perry.
Thanks, Mayor. Well, Councillor Murphy pretty much said verbatim what I was going to say. I understand Council has reached out to the proponent to see if they would be able to overcome some of the some of the dot points in the recommendation, and that wasn't forthcoming. I don't like to refuse any residential applications, but on this occasion, our planning department's given very good reason why we shouldn't do this, and I support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Are there any other comments?
Question, Madam Mayor?
Councillor Hollister, you have a question?
To the general manager and the planners. If the proponents had suggested to go up an extra story, pulling the footprint, would that be a possible option?
Yes, you explore options.
Yes, through you, Mayor, yes, certainly options to redesign the building in a way that provided it meets the performance criteria in the planning scheme. Whether that's two-storey or reducing the footprint, there'd be a number of options which I understand our planners have spoken to the designers about.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? I will ask Councillor Devonport to close the debate. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 4.2 is BA 2021.0206, 7 Parker Street. Do you have a mover of that?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Councillor Murphy and Councillor Perry. Councillor Murphy.
Thanks, Mayor. Again, a very detailed report provided to us. Pretty much a no-brainer. Common sense will fail. Let them get on with it.
Thank you. Councillor Perry is the second one.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this particular site over the years has been used for a range of purposes, including what I would consider sport and recreation. The various reincarnations over the years, so I can't see any reason why that couldn't be resurrected again, and I think the conditions in place will take care of any loss of amenity that some may think could be. I don't think there would be, but I think that they've conditioned it appropriately so that would not happen. And I think it's a good use, and the fact is they're probably only over the back fence where they are now. So, and my understanding is there's no issues with noise and light and the like where they are now. So, yeah, I'll be willing to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? Councillor Alexia.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with the previous two speakers. We do notice there are some conditions for the proposed change of use, and as long as they meet that criteria, I think it'll be fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion is carried unanimously. 5.1 is of reports is a request for a placement of a commemorative seat in the Waterfront Park from Australian.
So moved.
Second.
Councillor Murphy.
approach.
There are some options, option one.
Option one, Mayor, I'd like to move option one. Thank you.
Second that.
Councillor Murphy. Option one. Thank you. Councillor Perry.
I consider this pretty straightforward. How could we not approve this when an organisation that's done so much good work in the community over 70 odd years? I don't think I need to add anything more to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Here.
Are there any other comments? I'll ask Councillor Perry to close.
Consider it closed.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Item 5.2 is delegations from the General Manager, which is a biennial update. There is a recommendation there for this item. Do I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Murphy.
Seconded.
Councillor Perry. Councillor Murphy.
Very detailed yet again, but this is really just merely procedural, Mayor. Nothing much there really to add.
Thank you. Councillor Perry.
Just an update and a reaffirmation. That's about it. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 5.3 is a tender report for contract CS 0104, Weberley's Road Stormwater Drainage. Do I have a mover, please?
You do, Mayor.
Councillor Laycock, thank you.
Seconded.
And Councillor Wilborn. Councillor Laycock.
Nothing to add there. It's been, the due diligence has been done and the contract's awarded to Walters Contracting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilborn.
I find it interesting that there's $100,000 difference between 1 and 2, and 2 and 3 are quite similar, but I'm sure due diligence has been made and we're happy with that suggestion, so.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? Councillor Murphy.
Yeah, just following on from that, I too sort of looking at that. It is a significant variation between taking into consideration the current market conditions, where we are in a situation as an organisation and as a business that we are exposed to, the potential that the civil construction industry is extremely busy at the moment, and they do have a significant workload. And to see a variation of that calibre or that magnitude is significant, and considering it is only a stormwater contract, so and the reseal as well. Yeah, it's just interesting. So hopefully we do okay. It's good that it is, but hopefully we do okay. If we can get any other information, that'd be good.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Good point of Councillor Murphy's. I actually had a discussion with our city engineer, Mike Williams, this afternoon about that. He thought it was what they're seeing with the smaller jobs that are still quite competitive, and someone like Walters, who have got the best price for this project and the next one, are still looking for work. But those larger contractors are quite busy, and there's a smaller field there to do the bigger jobs, and that's been reflected in the William Street project. So this job and some other ones where we've just got quotes, smaller jobs are still being quite competitive.
Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Are there any other comments, questions? Councillor Laycock to close.
Consider it closed, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.4 is a tender report for contract CTO 325 for North Kenton Street renewal. Do I have a mover for recommendation, please?
So moved.
Councillor Murphy.
I've been second.
Councillor Exner, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Having just heard the response from the General Manager read the previous agenda item, I think we can move forward with some confidence that we're getting value for money.
Thank you. Councillor Exner.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing further to add there.
Any comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.5 is a tender report for contract CTO 322, which is a William Street renewal, and there is a recommendation there. Do you have to move it, please? Councillor Hollister, Councillor Valencia, Councillor Hollister.
Yes, this is a fairly big job, so. And it needs doing. It's been, William Street's one of our main arteries, so. It's 1.5, over 1.5 million, so it's a fairly big job. If we get many other quotes. What's in the file there? Only two. Anyway, nothing further to add.
No, very close. Councillor Alexia.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Nothing further to add then.
Any other comments, questions? Councillor Perry.
Thanks, Mayor. This one concerns me a little bit, to be honest. I accept that there's a little bit of extra work done than what we had budgeted for, but it also says in the report, while this is a small part of the work around intersections is generally slower and therefore more expensive. But we're $600,000 over budget on what we forecast a figure of $940,000 initially for this. So I think we all understand, and I think I understand as well as anyone in the room, well, I think I do, market forces. And clearly market forces at the moment heavily favour the civil construction industry and general construction. And we are now as a council operating in a very difficult environment financially because of that. I think, and that's good, but council's response to that, I think we've got to start making some decisions on not just accepting every project that we put into a budget, accepting it whatever price comes in and just say, well, that's market forces. There will come a time, and maybe this is the time, that we say about this, well, this is $600,000 over budget. Do we need to do it? Is it a safety issue? I don't think this particular project is. I actually went up there today and drove slowly over the area that's in question. And I couldn't see any real safety issues. So my thought was, is it time we started shelving some of these projects until the market cooled down? That money can be put into cash reserves, done whatever we like with. But I think our option to compete not to compete, but to compete against the market is to shelve work and recommence when they do quieten down a bit. And that will happen. That is inevitable. That's just how the market works. So I think we need to send out a message that we can no longer accept the construction industry, civil construction industry, or any construction industry. We just accept prices for what they are and get them done because we put them in the budget several months ago. On this occasion, we did for this. So to me, this is just a little line in the sand moment, if you like. It's $600,000 over budget. I'm not comfortable with that. I don't think it's fair to the ratepayers. So on this occasion, I won't be supporting this particular agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry.
I think there's too many on. Councillor Lake,
So,
is now, no, mine's good. When there's too many on, don't worry.
Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. I too agree with Councillor Perry. I'll go one step further and probably encourage my fellow councillors not to support this recommendation and potentially look at shelving this. In the recommendation or in the information provided, and there's 3 points there that go specifically talking to that particular point as Councillor Perry has raised it. So again, the question would be, are we getting the best bang for our buck? And the second one is, if the market is so saturated, are we going to be able to get the work completed within the time frame of the budget anyway? So in effect, if we did defer it to the following year, if it is deferred to the next budget cycle, and then the work would then, because as I understand it, asking some questions within the civil construction industry, most companies now are 12 to 18 months out before they can take any of these large jobs on anyway. So, potentially, I think it's, as it says, the saturated civil construction market has likely contributed to a low number of tenders being received. In other market conditions, more tenders may have been submitted in a more competitive environment. I think we need to, as Councillor Perry said, I think we need to stand up and start to chase that by deferring some of these particular jobs.
Thank you. Councillor Lindblom.
If I can just ask a couple of questions, what would the implications be if we did defer this project?
As in the life of the...
Like, what is the expectancy of that piece of road? Would it cause, likely of potholes?
Mr. School.
It's through you there, I guess, some additional background information. So this is, in the road program, one of the highest priority projects for the year, particularly the intersection of Valley Road is failing badly, and we've had a lot of repair work due there at the moment. The project scope was enlarged to include the roundabout work for Reese High, and that was based on crash data for that roundabout. So we know we have particularly southbound vehicles travelling at high speed through that intersection at the moment. We've had a number of vehicles leave the road, end up in some people's backyards, and there's been some supplementary work done there. I guess market conditions is certainly a challenge, and we put projects to market with a degree of flexibility, and we've seen that in this tender coming back that both tendering contractors do not have the capacity to deliver the work right now, as in this financial year. So they proposed a later start. They'd be certainly carrying some risk in terms of pricing on doing that work at a later period of time. I guess the short-term forecast is certainly that into next financial year and perhaps beyond, for several years, knowing some of the large infrastructure projects that we know are in the pipeline right now, we don't see, the market conditions changing significantly anytime soon. This is certainly a project that will need to be completed at a point in time in the very near future. So I guess we've taken the decision to put this to council for consideration, giving the priority. And certainly if we don't believe we're achieving value for money outcomes, then we wouldn't have any hesitation in not recommending that council defer projects. And in fact, that's a discussion we've had with the councillors at the meeting, workshop pre-Christmas, that we want to come back and look at some projects to defer, particularly because the market conditions are quite tight at the moment. So I guess there are some choices available to council to make in terms of prioritisation of the program this year or next year, but certainly this particular project is a high priority project in terms of the current asset condition.
It looks as though this will go into next financial year. Would it be scope to be able to build it into the extra 600,000 into next year's budget?
That would be what?
That would be what?
I would assume.
Yeah, so that's the recommendation, that we keep the current program and project allocation this financial year and add a pre-commitment to the additional funds for next year's capital works project. Certainly one discussion internally was whether we defer the whole project and look at it again in the next financial year, but we're keen, I guess the opportunity we have at the moment is to secure a contractor to complete the work. Okay. So we're keen to keep that commitment in the program.
Oh, it's a tough decision, isn't it? Thank you very much for answering those. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Holster, to close the debate.
This is a difficult one. I think I brought up late last year that we probably need to start looking at some of the civil works that our own workforce can do. I don't believe that council would have the facilities or whatever to do a job like this, so I think it has to go to tender. So nothing further to add.
Okay, I'll close the debate and put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against?
No.
I will ask for a show of hands. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Holster, Councillor Alexio, Councillor Milborn, Councillor Laycock and Councillor Rockcliffe. Those against? Councillor Murphy and Councillor Perry. The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 6 is information. 6.1 is the Mayor's report for December, January. Do I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Second.
Councillor Murphy, Councillor Laycock, Councillor Murphy.
Yes, Mayor, you've been very busy. It's been a very busy period of time. Yes, so well done.
Thank you, Councillor Laycock.
Not a lot I can add, Mayor. We always know you're busy, but particularly the last month, and I know that everyone is more than happy with the way that you've handled things within the last month. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
It's just the Premier's Local Government Committee. Anything interesting coming out of that that you're allowed to say?
Not that we haven't already talked about as far as the local government. Most of it's been about the local government review and how that's going to progress over the next 18 months.
Thank you.
Councillor Alexia?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to congratulate you on a very tough month for you, yourself, and the group that you're working with regarding the Hillcrest Primary School. It's a testing time for all of us, and we're all affected in some way by what's happened. And you've stayed very strong and kept us positive as well, and that's what's very encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the sentiments. My role in it all was very small, but thank you for that support. I will ask Councillor to close.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I wholeheartedly support the sentiments from my fellow councillors in relation to the job. As I said, you've done extremely well.
Thank you.
Consider it closed.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.2 is the General Manager's report for December. Have a mover, please.
So moved.
Councillor Murphy. And Councillor Perry. Thank you, Councillor Murphy.
Merely procedural, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Perry.
Nothing to add. We had a nice break, so let's come back to fresh, ready to go. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Oh, apologies, Councillor Alexia. Yes.
Just want to commend the General Manager as well on a very testing month. He's stood up quite well and strong and led his group very well over this very difficult time. And as a councillor, it's made our life a lot easier having a General Manager that works so hard for us as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I will ask Councillor Murphy.
Consider it closed.
And I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.3 is.
So moved.
We don't need to do that.
No.
We don't need to.
Quite a detailed report.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Well done. Item 6.4 is public lighting strategy for 2021 to 26, the year one update. From Murphy, please.
So moved.
Councillor Murphy. Seconder.
A second.
Councillor Alexia. Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
It is merely an update there in relation to where things are at and the status update, if I may. One of the things that I am very pleased to see is that we will finally now have the necessary approvals to put our lighting up down the boat ramp, which is very much needed in that particular space. So it's going to be a good project and looking forward to that one being completed, I can tell you.
You declared an interest, Councillor Murphy?
Yeah, to say.
I think everyone's got an interest in safety now, you know. I must confess, yes, I do enjoy the pleasures of using that particular facility, as do a lot of other people. So, it's a good strategy, and it's amazing how much positivity we get from members of the community around the fact that, especially visitors, how well lit our walking tracks and what we've been able to achieve, and the fact that we've actually got a very clearly defined plan. We're moving along nicely with it.
Thank you. Councillor Alexia.
No, nothing further, Madam Mayor.
Any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.5 is a report on the Pioneer Park Master Plan for 2018 to 28, Year 4 update. Do I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Hollister, thank you. The seconder,
Second.
Councillor Murphy? Yeah, thank you. Councillor Hollister.
This is just a statement of the master plan for Pioneer Park. You're on page 61, you'll notice the footpath upgrade and so forth there, and a couple of disability parking spots, which are a bit different to what you normally see for disability. They look pretty good. I do have a question though. The tree, virtually at the end of the photo on that page, has been crucified. I'm wondering if this is because the footpath's got to go through there. I'm going to say.
Sorry.
I'm presuming the footpath is going to be continued down to the church eventually. And there's a huge tree there which has just been cut down and removed, and I presume it is on the edge of the road, so I was wondering if it was actually going through the footpath that it was going to go through there.
On notice. I'll take that on notice.
Right. Nothing further, though.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, it is a detailed plan. Obviously, it's a moving feast, and we're continuing to move in the right direction.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? Councillor Hollister, please.
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
Oh, apologies. Councillor Nixon.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to add that it is a pretty significant park in East Devonport, and it does cater for a lot of age groups there, and it will be pretty significant once the new Spirit Tasmania birthing docks are being upgraded, and I'm sure the park will get a lot more use going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? No? Councillor Hollister to close.
Consider it closed.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.6 is General Management, People and Finance and Corporate Services Report for November, December. Do I have a vote, please?
So moved.
Councillor Perry.
Second.
Councillor Murphy, Councillor Perry.
A lot of information there, toward, everything's going well, thank you.
Councillor Murphy.
Yes, Mayor, exactly right. There is one particular point, as soon as I find it, sorry, it's a little bit slow, which I thought was interesting, and it's around our parking stats. And the fact that a couple of things, the increase in the number of parking permits that have been issued is up by 42%. And the multi-storey car park is actually now starting to kick a few goals, and I think it's worth noting. Obviously, it has taken a little while for it to actually get some traction, versus we've seen a decline in the use of the Formby Road car park. So obviously we're seeing a bit of a slow transition, but we are seeing some positive results in relation to the utilisation of the multi-storey car park. So overall, it's, we've got a positive variance of 11% in relation to where our actual revenue is versus our budget. So again, that's some positivity for the city.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Councillor Perry, close.
Consider it closed.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 6.7 is Community Services Report for November and December. Do I have a move, please?
So moved.
Councillor Nixon, thank you. Seconder.
Second.
Councillor Murphy, thank you. Councillor Nixon.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, well done to Karen again. Obviously, it's still a pretty testing time for her and her group to organise certain events with COVID here. So, good work to Karen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it can be underestimated and understated, the work that Ms Hampton has done, again, in a very trying period, taking into consideration, how well New Year's Eve went off, and everything ran smoothly. There's not really too much to be said, to be quite honest, but thank you very much for the hard work that you've done in very trying circumstances.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Extra to close.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Consider closed.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.8 is Convention and Arts Report for November and December 2021. Do I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Extra, thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Murphy, thank you. Councillor Extra.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, congratulations to the Chair for a job well done. Again, he's got pretty testing times with what's happening at the Convention and Arts Centre, but we're all working closely on that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Some positive numbers. A lot of these numbers were pre-mask mandates and now COVID situation, so it'll be interesting to see what our numbers are next month's meeting in relation to the impact. I think we are facing challenging times where people aren't prepared to venture out and sort of attend events and not in the numbers that they had been previously.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? I'll ask Councillor Alexia to close.
Consider closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.9 is the election members' expense report to the 31st of December. Do I have a mover?
You do. Second.
Councillor Laycock, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Laycock.
Nothing to add, Mayor.
Councillor Murphy.
Yeah, pretty much procedural, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from anyone? Councillor Laycock to close.
Consider closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.10 is annual plan progress report to the 31st of December 2021. Do I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Murphy.
Second.
And Councillor Alexia. Councillor Murphy.
It's all there in the report, Mayor. We're ticking along nicely. It does mention the Woodfront Park, sort of now starting to get some goals. There's been a lot of comment in the community in relation to the bridge and how well it looks, or the diving board as I call it. But it'll be, we're going on nicely. So
Thank you. Councillor Alexia.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, it is looking very promising. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Holster.
Yes, the installation of 17 recycling bins has been completed. Sunday morning I walked along in front of the surf club. There's one bin there just in front of the children's playground, and it was chock-a-block and overflowing, so I don't know. Obviously they're leaking sometime over the weekend this time of the year, or another bin place there maybe would be more economical. Thank you.
Thank you. Type that on board. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close.
consider it closed.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.1 is unconfirmed minutes of Devonport City Council's audit panel. Do I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Murphy. Thank you.
Second.
And Councillor Derrick. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, merely procedural. It's there for all to see.
Thank you, Councillor Derrick.
Yeah, nothing further, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Item 7 is section 23 committees. We have had no meetings since our last agenda, and which brings us to item 8, a motion to move into closed session.
So moved.
Councillor Laycock, Councillor Murphy, any comments?
No, Mayor, sorry.
Councillor Murphy, with your comments?
Nothing further then.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? The motion is carried unanimously, and that brings our open agenda meeting to a close at 6:24. Thank you to those members of the gallery.